was 16 and a passenger in my then boyfriend's car who was 18. We were out driving late at night in a heavy rainstorm when he pulled into a petrol station to refuel the car. It was raining heavily. There was thunder, lightning, and the storm was well underway. Now, in the UK, petrol stations are well maintained, but as I sat there, I saw water dripping down the pillar from between the thick metal sheeting that made up the roof. This heavy feeling came over me as I watched that water dripping down, and I just knew that the roof was going to collapse. I opened the door because my boyfriend was still fueling the car, and I asked him to move the car before he went and paid for his fuel. He initially refused and looked at me like I was mad. I pleaded with him to please move the car, and when he again refused, I became angry and said if he didn't move the car, I was getting out and I was going to wait at the edge of the forecourt in the rain by myself. He was annoyed, but he moved the car and went inside to pay. As he came and got back in the car, he asked me what was that all about, and I said to him, "That roof is going to collapse." He looked at it again, as I did, and it appeared sturdy to him. There was nothing to suggest it was unsafe. Still, I knew it was going to collapse. As he pulled out of the station, the sound of heavy metal sheets falling and crashing to the ground could be heard behind us. He braked and looked in the mirror, and I shifted my seat to look behind us. Right there, where I had been sitting, the metal sheet had fallen and was hanging down directly where I'd have sat if I'd still been in the car. The car would have been written off, and I for sure would not have survived the weight of the metal sheets, which would have shattered the windscreen and pierced me in the chest. I'll never forget the look on his face as he turned to me and said, "Oh my God, I'll never question or doubt you again." Years ago, we moved our family from Indiana to New Hampshire. My husband at the time had already started a new job there, so my mother came from Ohio to help me with the move. My 3 daughters, 6, 8, and 10, like most children would be, were sad to leave their friends behind, but they were also curious. What exciting new adventures might lie ahead in a move so far away? The house was clean, the moving van left, so we packed 3 children, Mama, me, and a couple of suitcases. We also had a calm terrier, a styrofoam cooler with sandwiches and milk, and a howling cat, all into our Toyota station wagon. Even with the back seat folded down, it was crammed pretty tight. I should probably mention that it was night, the dead of winter, and snowing like gangbusters as we headed east on the interstate toward New Hampshire. 2 hours down the road, it was snowing so hard I couldn't see the lines on the road, and at times, the road either. My wipers struggled with the heavy snow on the windshield. Driving very slowly, I was relieved to get behind an 18-wheeler, and I kept my eyes on his tail lights, the red guiding me. When he turned off at one of the exits, Mama and I decided that we had no business being on the road in that kind of weather either. It was really late, and at that point, snowing so hard the wipers had all but given up. I couldn't see the road anymore at all. My only clue was the faint glow of our headlights as they lit up the mile markers to the right of the road. A mile further down, I took an exit which promised several motels. I drove to the front door of the first one that we came to. I stopped, took a deep breath, relieved to be off the road. I was about to turn off the car when Carrie, my oldest, said, "Mommy, we can't stay here. There's a fire coming. This motel will burn down and we'll die." Mama and I looked at each other. We looked at the well-lit, snow-covered building, part of a famous motel chain. We assured her that all was well, that there was no fire, but there was no placating her. She was adamant. Mama leaned over and whispered, "Pick your battles, honey." And I agreed. It wasn't worth the aggravation of an argument. I drove on down the street to the next motel, just a few blocks away. We got a room for what was left of the night. In the morning, we were greeted by a sunny day. The snow had stopped and it covered everything. It was beautiful, like a Norman Rockwell painting. After a nice continental breakfast, compliments of the motel, we re-crammed ourselves, the suitcases, the cooler, the dog, the howling cat, back into the Toyota to resume our long drive to New Hampshire. As we passed the first motel from the night before, we were stunned. Sometime during the night, the motel had burned to the ground.